Get ready for a night of timeless masterpieces as the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra presents Beethoven's Fifth. The evening opens with More Seasons by Michael Abels, followed by Victor Herbert's Cello Concerto No. 2, featuring internationally acclaimed cellist Ahmet Pellet. The concert closes with one of the most iconic pieces ever written, Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. Join the WCO on March 28th at 7:30 p.m. for Beethoven's Fifth. Tickets are available at wcoconcerts.org/Pellet. Today on CityCast Madison. Welcome to the Friday News Roundup. We've got big local sports news, results from the State Street Pedestrian Mall study, and next week's election. It's Friday, March 28th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. All right, I can't believe we're almost to Election Day. Not quite. Join me today as the leader of this here podcast, Haley Sperling. What's good?
Hello, Bianca. I'm so ready for the election to be over.
Where the finish line is in sight. That's definitely good. And Rob Thomas is here, our newsletter editor. How goes it, Rob?
It goes well. Happy Friday, Bianca.
Happy Friday. Quite delighted. And Rob, you're kicking us off. You are our sportsman of the group. Let it rip.
I guess by default. But yeah, there was a lot going on in Badger sports this week. There was, I guess you would say, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, as they used to say on ABC Wild World of Sports, which probably dates me.
I believe you.
Okay.
You're also our sportsman by default, by the way, because you're the only man on the team.
Come on.
We're sportswomen.
Well, it's like Rob joined the team and then we had him on Friday News Roundup. And like one of the first stories ever was like sports story. And then we're like, all right, Rob's sports guy now.
Well, I mean, the big thrill of victory this week was women's sports, guys. So
Heck yeah, it was.
We're talking about the Badgers women's hockey team are NCAA national champions. Again.
Yes. Again.
Yes. I think there's even 4 more agains after that.
Yeah, right.
This is their 8th championship, national championship. That's the most of any school in the nation. So they came in to the tournament with a lot of expectations. They beat fellow powerhouse Ohio State 4-3 to secure the victory. And it was quite a game. I mean, the Buckeyes took a 1-0 lead in the first period. And early in the second, they had a 3-1 lead. And then Wisconsin mounted its comeback. Junior Kirsten Sims scored the game-tying goal on a penalty shot with less than 19 seconds left in regulation. No pressure, right? Just the season championship on the line. And then she knocked in the game winner in overtime. She took a rebound and kind of dinged it between another player's legs, which I learned is called nutmegging. Have you ever heard that term before? When you knock it, this is across sports. When you ding a ball or
Haley's
a puck
face
between.
right now is like,
yeah,
what?
I love
I've
that
never
phrase,
heard that term
nutmegging.
before.
I'm going to try and use that
Nutmegging.
in everyday parlance. Like if I grab a parking spot, I nutmeg the other driver or something like that. So anyway,
We
congratulations.
learn something new every day.
That's right. I want to increase our word power on the podcast.
Yes, please teach us.
So congratulations to the team. It was a great run and we're all really proud. We're also very proud of our men's basketball team, even though obviously the season did not go as they hoped. They went into the NCAA tournament number 3 and got beaten in the second round by number 6 Brigham Young University, a narrow 91-89 loss. But if you look overall, I think the season has to be considered a success. I mean, in the preseason, they were picked to be 12th in the Big Ten. And instead, they went to the Big Ten tournament title game. And I think they're feeling pretty good about building on their success next year, especially on offense. So, it's always the way. 63 teams have a disappointing loss, right, in the March Madness, but you have to look at the whole season. And, speaking of basketball and looking forward to next year, the girls basketball team has a new coach. Robin Pinchton left Missouri to take over the program, which has had 14 consecutive losing seasons. And the Badgers' previous coach, you might remember, Marissa Mosley, left following some accusations of mistreatment by a former player. So she's coming into a program with a lot to rebuild. And I saw a little bit of surprise among local sports writers because Pinchton at Missouri also had a losing record recently. So we'll see if she can turn the Badgers around. But there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I was reading too in the Badger Extra, which is the sports offshoot of the Wisconsin State Journal, that even Wisconsin athletics department was kind of surprised by Mosley's departure. Like they weren't expecting her to leave. She still had time left on her contract. And our athletic director, said for all purposes, like we were expecting her to come back next year. And so clearly, this was a surprise for everyone. And you talk about, looking at the whole season too, and looking at the records. And yeah, our women's basketball team, it's been a rough few years for them. But even then, Marissa Mosley, like she has built up a lot more success. I was reading she was more successful than the past few coaches that our women's basketball team has had. Despite still this losing record, she has been building on this team. And that's what they keep saying, like we're building blocks to build a successful team in the future. So we'll see if Miss Robin can continue that trajectory because they were on the up and up, even if it didn't look like it. They've come a long way.
Inching forward. I don't know. It just makes me think of Ted Lasso, of a coach coming in like, what are you doing here? What do you mean you have this, this is not what we were expecting. But then he turns the whole thing around. So we're rooting for y'all. We love the Badger basketball. And yeah.
I mean, also speaking of unexpected, I don't know if you guys were awake when our Badger women's hockey team got back from their winning game. And if you weren't awake, perhaps you were woken up, but there were police sirens, fire department, ambulance, like they were going down all the streets. And I was sitting in my apartment on the east side and I was like, is there like a major breaking news story happening right now? Like, do I need to be going somewhere? It was a victory parade. It was the whole city welcoming the team back. It was very nice, but it was also like 12:20 a.m. And I was like, I'm trying to go to bed here. Like, I was like, it's a little late for this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the old. And also I was the person on Reddit, like what are these sirens for? I am the problem.
There's no bad time to win a national championship, right?
So fair.
Yeah. And we can take some good news. So we'll definitely celebrate that. Lots of fanfare. And worthy fanfare. We're going to keep going on this Friday News Roundup train, moving from sports spirit to pedestrian thoroughfare spirit. Walking Mall on State Street. All right, before we get into that news, let's take a quick break. Behold the wonders of science. Y'all, it's that glorious time of year for UW-Madison Science Expeditions, a UW campus-wide science open house. Yup, they're opening the doors to the science labs and research centers to you and your family for free. From April 4th through the 6th, you can adventure around your top-tier public land-grant university and talk with the world-class researchers, enjoy science demos, and get hands-on at interactive exploration stations. The variety of programs is amazing. You can learn about everything from the human lung to the science behind ice cream. You can even visit monkeys in the Primate Center. Again, UW-Madison Science Expeditions events are free and open to everyone. So, see you at the destinations for exploration on campus April 4th through the 6th. Find the full schedule at go.wisc.edu/science expeditions.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger, so I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
All right, y'all. We've been talking about city vehicles whipping around our city streets in celebration of the Badger hockey team, which is super fun. And while we're talking about city streets, Y'all remember, I'm sure you do, the city experiment last year to turn part of State Street, the 400 to the 600 block, into a pedestrian mall? Trying to figure out, like, would that work? Do we like it? Well, the results are in. Top line, and I know you know this because actually, Rob, you wrote about it in the newsletter. So let's just throw that out there.
I did. I'll pretend to be surprised.
Yeah. And Haley who edits.
and I edited the newsletter, so I'm also shocked.
Tell us.
Top line. It's a mixed bag.
What?
No.
How's that?
No.
We're shocked. Yeah. So depending on who you are, visitors loved it and businesses some of them liked it and some of them did not. So the city made a number of learnings from this experiment and they're considering bringing parts of it back this summer in 2025, just on a smaller scale. So let's take us back. The city last May through October made that section of State Street, the 400 to 600 block, into a pedestrian-only thoroughfare. They spruced it up. They painted the streets with decals, including some flamingos, little colorful circles all over the place just to make it marked so people know this is that space. And they even had flamingo statues and benches that people like. So they closed that area off to traffic. And during this period, city officials say this effort brought more visitors to the area than past years. And I want to go over a bit of those numbers on how they know there was more foot traffic. The city used anonymized mobile device location data from Placer.ai. Not weird at all. That was provided by Madison Central Business Improvement District.
They're tracking us. We're being watched. We're being watched by the Madison Business Improvement District.
Yeah, it's like, there are more people on State Street. How do they know that? Oh, okay. All of our activities being watched. Anywho, we love you, AI gods. We love you. Okay, back to the numbers. Apparently, they saw 57% more activity overall when compared to 2019, so pre-pandemic State Street foot traffic times. 57%, that's quite a lot. A couple other highlights. Surveys found that most visitors, 84%, liked or loved having the pedestrian mall. And 81% said that they would be more likely to come to State Street because of it. So the business feedback, though, was a bit more mixed, with only 40%, so, half, saying they liked or loved the pedestrian mall, 40% saying it's okay, and 20% saying not for me, nah, dog, I'm gonna stay home. So, yeah, there's some outcomes there. The whole question was like, is this something that we could make permanent? At this point, there's no dedicated budget or staff capacity to run this kind of experiment again the same way in 2025. But they are considering keeping some of the elements this summer, including looking at ways to continue the hashtag Madison is Music initiative in that space, potentially touching up the street painting and keeping the existing flamingo sculptures and reinstalling the benches that people liked. So there are some things that we're getting from this experiment. A full-blown pedestrian mall, not yet, but it's not out of the question.
I'm excited. I was reading through the findings of that report and they were really like, yes, flamingo statues. These were great. People loved them. They were cheap, like no upkeep involved. We're keeping the flamingo statues. And I was like, great, exactly what Madison needs. More flamingos. No, I digress. I love the flamingos, but I'm happy with that. And honestly, like, yeah, the business feedback was more mixed, but like, I view the 40% saying it was okay as like a 40% like kind of net positive, right? So that paired with the 40% that said they liked or loved it, like that's 80%. That pretty much lines up with what we heard from the people who said that they liked or loved it. So I don't know. It seems like overall this was a good thing. I know there were definitely some like logistical hiccups, especially for the businesses that the city had to navigate around concerning, deliveries and trash pickups and stuff like that. And I also know that like the benches that they had installed, they had issues with vehicles running into them because cars love to crash into stuff in Madison. I would love if people could stop doing that. I would love if we could have a week in the newsletter or in our news where we don't have to write vehicle crashed into building. Anyways, this is this is the hill I will die on. This is where this is where I go hard. But no, I liked the pedestrian mall. I feel like State Street, it was becoming so lifeless and sad and commercialized, especially over like
Sorry.
is right. No, fair. Go off. But like, it was encouraging to me to see the city try to react to that, right? And try to bring people back to the space in a way that made sense. And I really appreciated the paintings on the street. I thought that was cute. But of course, the city's like, it got all chipped and torn up within the first couple of months and whatnot. So the city's like, we need to do more
Proof
to prep.
of foot traffic.
Right. Proof of foot
Turn
traffic.
it down for what?
Like they proved themselves right. I mean, but now the city's got all these issues with paint, talking about paint on State Street, talking about paint on the bus lanes, whatever. Someone's got to prep these streets better, but I digress nonetheless. I think it's nice.
Do you think this is all because they canceled Freak Fest? Like
to bring people back to State Street or
yeah,
what?
that State Street's turning into like a little bit lifeless in some areas. Only talking about the national, whatever.
I mean,
Haterade.
I truly think like it really goes back to our question of like who can afford rent on State Street? Like what are the businesses that can afford to be there? And it really is just like the national change, which makes me feel kind of sad. And again, the city had done like that culture collectives exchange spot where local businesses set up shop there, which was good. And I hope we do more of that. But I don't know. Also, like it's kind of a dreary area. There's a lot of for rent and for sale signs. It just doesn't make me super happy to go down there.
I like Peace Park.
Yeah, that's a beautiful spot.
I like that little area where people can play chess. Well, Rob, you wrote about this. You got to see the findings.
Yeah, and the thing that surprised me was that disconnect between what people going there thought and what the businesses thought. Because it's like the businesses were like, either they liked it or a lot of people thought it was kind of mid. And I was I'd like to see some drill down into like why that businesses, because as you said, it brought people downtown. Were those people not buying things, or was the logistics of having the street closed, the inconvenience maybe outweighed the foot traffic? I did see one stat in those findings that like 37% of the businesses thought the street closure hours should have been shorter. So I don't know. I'm not sure what that, but I think that's a big thing that the city needs to look at is like, how to get businesses a little more excited about it, because like you said, people were down there, they were excited and it looked great and it was a fun time. So you'd want that to continue.
Well, we'll see. I'm excited. It's finally spring and it's starting to get nice out. So we'll see how that develops. And it is interesting to see the results of the study. And I'm glad they tried it. Like, let's try things. Like, let's see what works in the city. And we're going to keep doing that. And talking about folks walking on State Street, we see all kinds of foot traffic on State Street, including demonstrators and protesters. Y'all, we've got an election next week. And don't we know it? Don't we know it? Before we dive into election news and reminders there, let's take a quick break.
Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved chief resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse April 3rd, only on Netflix.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Election on Tuesday. What we're going to do, gonna vote. We're going to vote, and we're going to tell you some news.
We're gonna vote. Yes, go vote. We're talking elections and we're talking protests. Let's start there. Over the past few weekends, there's been a handful of Madisonians outside of the West Side Tesla Service Center off the Beltline protesting Mr. Elon Musk. People are upset over Musk's involvement in the upcoming Wisconsin Supreme Court election. In case you've been living under a rock, Musk has poured millions of dollars of his own personal fortune into the race to back Waukesha County Judge Brad Schimmel. He and President Donald Trump have vocally supported Schimmel's campaign for this seat. Most recently, Musk's political PAC has offered Wisconsin voters $100 to sign a petition in opposition to quote unquote activist judges, referring to Dane County Judge Susan Crawford, who is in the running against Schimmel for the Supreme Court seat. And I will say here, it is relevant to note that Crawford has also received 6- and 7-figure donations from billionaires like George Soros and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. But even with that in mind, like Musk contributions have far exceeded the gifts that Crawford has gotten from her mega donors. So all of this to say, there's a lot of money in this race. There's a lot of feelings in this race. And in fact, this is the most expensive judicial race of its kind in U.S. history. I'm going to ask you guys a question that I know you know the answer to. Do you guys know who set the previous record for the most expensive state Supreme Court race?
Canada?
Yeah. Ding.
Sorry, Canada. Literally, if you're Canadian, we love you and you are not a state.
Yeah. Rob, the Canadian, do you have anything to say to that?
I'm going to hold my tongue on that one.
I'm like, oh, shoot, I just shared fighting words.
I'm going to contact HR after the recording.
Diana.
I'm sorry.
No. Well, it wasn't Canada. We're talking about the U.S. here. Canada is not a state, no matter who wants it to be. But the answer is, it was us. It was Wisconsin back in 2023, which was coincidentally the last time that Wisconsin voted for a seat on the court. And in that case, it was liberal Justice Janet Protasiewicz, who ended up winning by 11 percentage points over conservative Judge Dan Kelly. And some experts have said that election really reflected the public backlash against the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, which overturned abortion rights. If you guys recall, that happened in June of 2022. And so I'm very curious to see what's going to happen here. The Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, as we know, has been busy. The Wisconsin Supreme Court will be very busy. There are lots of issues at hand here, including reproductive rights, voter ID, all of these very, very important things that are coming up ahead that these justices will definitely be hearing about. Even, labor, Act 10, it's all happening. So, I don't want to get too deep into these numbers because on Monday, you'll hear from Nick Ramos, who is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We just had a great conversation with him where he really digs into these numbers, how normal this is, how weird this is, what this kind of precedent this is setting for not only Wisconsin, but other races across the country. And so definitely be sure to tune into that. That's coming out on Monday, which is the day before the election. So we're here to say there is an election Tuesday, April 1st. Are you ready to vote? Rob, Bianca, are you guys ready to vote?
Yes.
We're ready.
We're ready.
Yeah.
Do you
I'm
know
really
where you're
excited, honestly. I like voting. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Everyone should like voting. Everyone should love voting. We want to remind you, like I said, there's an election April 1st. We're not fooling you. You got to be sure that you have your voter ID on you. Some form of IDs that can be a Wisconsin driver's license. This can be a U.S. passport. There are a bunch of different options at your disposal. Do you know where your polling place is? If you don't, and also if you don't have your voter ID and if you're not even sure what's on your ballot, you can head to myvote.wi.gov. This is the lovely website from the Wisconsin Elections Commission that gives you all of the information that you need in order to be a successful voter on election day. So please be prepared to vote. We're talking about Supreme Court now. There's also a proposed constitutional amendment surrounding voter ID itself. If you're not sure what that's all about, we had a conversation with Andrew Ball, the state government reporter over at the Cap Times, to break into that. There's also going to be school board elections. I've said it 5 million times before, I'll say it again. All 20 aldermanic seats are up on the ballot this election day. We had a Q&A go out to all of the candidates, and a bunch of them got back to us. So be sure to check that out on our website. There are 14 contested races. Learn more about the candidates. Your votes are super, super important, not only in the statewide races, but in these local races. Sometimes they're separated truly by a handful of votes. Sometimes they're not even separated at all. Sometimes you have to draw a name out of a hat to pick a winner. Like, that's how close these local races get. So make sure you're an informed voter. We will toss links to all of the information that you need to be a successful voter in our show notes. We got you covered at madison.citycast.fm. Cap Times has been doing great coverage as well. Isthmus has been doing great coverage as well. Wisconsin State Journal. Lots of folks out there. Wisconsin Watch. We appreciate all the journalists out there who are doing amazing work. We are going to be up early on April 2nd to give you the most accurate and up-to-date election results that we possibly can. So stay tuned for that next week, and send coffee, please.
And stock up on coffee. Well, we're all alert and alive and awake. This is an important election. You nailed it, Haley, and I'm glad that we have been doing so much coverage. It's cannot be understated how important our local elections are. Like, the president matters a ton, as we can see, but so does every single line item down the ticket. Like, it really matters to your everyday life, and your alders are the people that choose about the day-to-day things that happen in your neighborhood. And the Supreme Court, what rights you have. What rights? No big deal.
What a concept, right? When you put it like that, go vote for your rights. They are quite literally at stake. And yeah, it's a Supreme Court race to watch. Like we said, it's the most expensive of its kind. If Judge Susan Crawford, who we also did recently get an interview with, if she wins, then the state Supreme Court will really sort of solidify its liberal stronghold. But if Judge Brad Schimmel wins, then the conservatives will take back that ideological lead. But in 2026, there's going to be another Supreme Court election. I sound like a broken record, but depending on who wins, conservatives will have a chance to either strengthen the lead. Liberals will have a chance to strengthen the lead. It's all up in the air. A lot of it depends on this election. We're going to be talking a lot about this. So yeah, definitely tune into the Monday show. Nick does a really good job of breaking that down.
And go listen to our Susan Crawford interview, because if you hear from her, she's not joining to be a part of a liberal bloc, but we know what the outcome is going to be.
And to note, I mean, we did reach out to Brad Schimmel's team about 5 times. Never heard back, unfortunately. Of course, the offer still stands, but election's coming up soon. So TikTok.
As you guys say, there's millions of dollars pouring into the race, and we're seeing that every time we turn on the TV or fire up a video on YouTube and all the attack ads that are going back and forth. But the ad that probably has gone the most viral in Wisconsin is not one of the state Supreme Court ads, but a local ad for District 4 Alderman Mike Verveer, which looks like it probably cost $100. He took a very different approach with a panda suit. The ad is going viral because it features a guy in a panda suit extolling the virtues of Verveer when it comes to affordable housing, bringing Amtrak service to Madison, decriminalizing marijuana, other issues. And what's so funny about it is it looks like a straight ad where they're walking and talking and they're talking about the issues. There's no panda jokes. There's no reference whatsoever to why this guy happens to be in a panda suit. It's really funny. And Verveer said he wanted to give Wisconsin voters kind of a break from all the negative campaigning and show something fun. And it's going viral for that. Verveer is running for re-election against Eli Zarofsky. And I do think Zarofsky has the opportunity to do something really funny now and run an attack ad against the panda. So I picture ominous music and Mike Verveer's panda says he's an endangered species, but is he really? Let's look at his record. Something like that. So maybe Elon can throw $1 million behind him and really spice things up in the last days of the campaign.
I mean, what's a more beloved symbol than a panda? What other animal? Baby?
Baby hippo, baby shark. Yeah.
Baby.
Baby shark. Do, 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 do. I was thinking about this ad last night because, we wrote about it in the newsletter. And it's so funny to me that, like, Rob, you mentioned, like, they don't mention that it's just a dude in a panda suit. But, like, the panda is, like, an everyday Madisonian. Like, he lives in a high rise. He's got a dog. Like, it's just... it's so funny to me. I was also thinking about, too, I'm like, why panda? Like, why do this thing? Like, why not something related to Madison? But, like, one, we've got enough flamingos.
Right.
Two, there's not enough money for you to license a real Bucky. And three, like, why not? I guess, like, it's just, it really is. But I would say, Rob, you're like, this whole thing probably costs $100. I would say this panda costume probably costs at least $150. I was reading in the Journal Sentinel and they were like, why'd you guys do that? And it was like one of Mike's friends just like had this panda costume.
I figured something like that this was an opportunity, that they already had the panda suit. And
you got to get use out of it. Like, someone clearly bought like when they should have rented, and they're like, hey, you know what you need in this campaign?
Get our money's worth out of this. Yeah.
But it's like an argument for when you're like, I should get this. It's going to come in handy one day.
It did.
Like, when is this you ever going to wear this again? And just like, it's going to be national news. I don't know. It's a sea otter, like what can go up against the symbol of conservation?
I've seen a sea otter costume. Let's see. Okay. Yeah.
I think, yes.
The gauntlet is thrown.
Yep.
Sea otters are cute, but like, would a sea otter like anthropomorphic, suit be just as cute? Would it translate? I'm not sure.
It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Someone's got to do it. Eli,
I'd like to see this start a trend.
Chance.
Candidates going to St. Vinny's at Halloween and finding costumes for their next ads. I'd like to see this really become a thing.
Oh my God. Oh man. Well, good luck to everyone in their races. Next time you hear us on the Friday News Roundup, we'll know everything that's happened. And as Haley said, we're going to be up bright and early for the election to offer you guys election results. In the meantime, thanks you guys for rounding up the news with me this week. It's always incredible. Haley Sperling.
Thanks, Bianca.
And Rob Thomas.
Thank you, Bianca.
Okay. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin, your host. We're produced by Jade Isiri Ramos. Haley Sperling is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Carl Christensen. Additional music and sound effects this week by Crimson Vortex, Solstice, and 8 Main from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. Rob Thomas is our newsletter editor. Don't forget, you can always get more news delivered right to your inbox by subscribing to Madison Minutes. And hey, if you enjoyed today's show, why not share this podcast with a flaneur? A person who strolls around, someone who walks around a city observing and experiencing it without a specific destination or purpose. Walk on. See you back here Monday morning with more news from around the city. Until then, have a great weekend.